Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We got a slope quiz coming up. You can tell my voice doesn't sound too great, but we're going to get through this just fine. First thing, it says find the slope between 2 points. So if you don't remember the slope formula is change in y over change in x. And when we talk about x and y coordinates, that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The change in y, you got to subtract the y's. Change in x, you got to subtract the x's. So use that formula. I'm going to say y2 minus y1, negative 7 minus 14 over x2 minus x1, 16 minus negative 3. So negative 7 and negative 14 make negative 21. And 16 minus a negative 3 is the same as adding. 16 plus 3 is 19, and that's negative 21 over 19. So there's your slope. Let's do it again. You have an x-coordinate, a y-coordinate, x-coordinate, y-coordinate. So let's do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding. So 8 minus negative 18 is the same as 8 plus 18. That's 26. And 16 minus negative 19 is the same as adding 16 plus 19, which is 35. 26 and 35 don't have anything in common, so there's your slope. You can't reduce it. A couple more. 18 minus negative 15 is the same as adding, and 12 minus negative 17, also the same as adding. So we're going to do 18 plus 15, which is 33, and 12 plus 17, which is 29. Again, can't reduce it, so that's your slope. Last one, 9 minus negative 7 over negative 11 minus 2. That's the same as adding. So 16 over negative 11 and negative 2 make negative 13. So 16 over negative 13. I'd probably write it like this. It doesn't matter if they put the negative in the top or the bottom. When you actually talk about the slope, I just like to have it in the top, and that means I'm always going to rise or run, positive or negative, and I always run to the right, or rise up or down, depending on if it's positive or negative, and always run to the right. Sorry. If you find the slope, if I give you a graph. So if I give you a graph, you're just going to count the rise over run. But the trick is we read left to right. So start on this point on the left and then move to the right. So I'm going to count the rise. I have to rise to get from here to there. I have to rise 1. So rise 1. So the rise is 1. And then I'm going to run 2. 1, 2. So the slope is 1/2, up 1 over 2. If I try this guy, I'm going to rise 0. I don't actually rise. I'm just going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I rise 0 and run 5, I actually end up rising 0. This is a slope of 0. A horizontal line has a slope of 0. And if I said what's the equation of that line, the equation would be y equals 3. Because it passes through the y coordinate 3, and it doesn't have a slope. It'd be 0x plus 3. Here, I'm going to rise 1, and I'm not going to run 1 over 0. Yikes. You cannot divide by 0. This is called an undefined slope. This is a vertical line, and vertical lines have undefined slopes. So you don't say that nothing has no slope. No line has no slope. It has a slope of 0, or it has an undefined slope. And then the last one, I'm going to count my rise. So between those 2 points, I need to go down 1. So I'll say negative 1, and then I need to run 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 1 over 4, there's my slope. That's given 2 points. You're just counting. Write the slope-intercept form. So we need 2 things. We need to find the slope, and we need to find the y-intercept. The slope, I'm going to do the same thing I was doing before. I'm going to count the slope. I got to find 2 points that are nice and friendly, though. It looks like those 2 points are sort of on the corner. So the rise between them would be 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 2 over 5. To get from here to there, you got to go up 2 and then over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the slope is 2/5. And B is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is where x is 0. So you're looking at the y-axis, and then you're saying, what's the y-coordinate right there? The y-coordinate is negative 3. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 3. To write that in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, we're going to say y equals m is 2/5, so 2/5 x. B is negative 3, so minus 3. 2/5 x minus 3. Same game here. I'll use this guy, and it looks like that's okay. Does that look similar on the other side? Yeah, that's so those points. So my rise to get from here to there. I'm going to go down 1, negative 1, and I'm going to run 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 1/4 is my slope, and my y-intercept is, again, where I hit the y-axis. So I look at the y-axis, the y-coordinate there is 1, so 0, 1. Then when you fill in the blanks, y equals mx plus b, negative 1/4 x plus 1. Count your slope, look at your y-intercept, you can write your equation. What if I give you the equation? Can you graph it? Basically working backwards. Start at your y-intercept. So on the y-axis, I'm going to go to negative 3. And then my slope, if you see just negative x, that's the same as negative 1x. So I'm going to go down 1, and then my run is also 1, so negative 1/1. Because if you think about it, you could write any number as over 1. It's just kind of silly because dividing by 1 is the same number you started with. So there's your line. It's a negative slope, so as you read left to right, it should go down. Try another one. So we've got the y-intercept is 2, so I'm going to start at 2 on the y-axis, and then my slope is 5/2. So up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. That puts me about here, a little off the grid. Down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, left 2. That's the same thing. And we've got some points. Use a straight edge, make it look good. There's your line in slope-intercept form. Point slope form. So point slope form, the equation for point slope is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. x1 and y1 are coordinates of point on the line, and m is the slope. So if it helps you, you can kind of do this. I won't do this every time, but it sometimes helps people. I'm going to just fill in the blanks. x1, the x coordinate of a point on the line. X coordinate's -1, so right here I'm going to put -1. y1 is a y coordinate on the line. So the y coordinate is 3, right? Y minus 3. The slope is 1, so I'll put a 1. I can rewrite this a little bit. Y minus 3 equals 1. X minus -1 is the same as adding 1. So the equation comes out to be right there. Y minus 3 equals 1 times x plus 1. Let's do it again. Y minus, the y coordinate is -1, so I'll put -1, equals, the slope is 1/10. X minus, the x coordinate is -5, so -5. But you don't want to write it with minus negatives, so we'll say minus -1 is the same as adding 1/10 x plus 5. So there you go. You're just looking for, do you have double negatives? If you have double negatives, you're going to have a plus sign. It's supposed to be a minus sign in the equation. That's kind of how you can remember it. So if you plug in a negative, you're going to get a plus. If you plug in a positive, you're going to get a minus. A couple more. Y minus, the y coordinate is 4. The slope is -7/8. X minus -3 will be x plus 3. And then last one, y minus, the y coordinate is 4. The slope is -8/5. And then x minus -5. X minus -5 is x plus 5. So that's writing an equation in point slope form. That's if I'm giving you a point and the slope. The last thing is if I just give you 2 points and say what's the equation of the line. So you can use point slope or slope intercept, but regardless, we need to find the slope. It doesn't matter what form of line you use, you need to find the slope here. So we're going to do y2 minus y1 just like we did at the top, 0 minus 2, and then x2 minus x1, -2 minus 0. And that gets you -2 over -2, which is a slope of 1. Now, if you're given the y-intercept, you can write it in slope-intercept very easily. Y equals 1x plus, since we're given the y-intercept, and I know that because the x-coordinate is 2, or I'm sorry, the x-coordinate is 0, the y-coordinate is 2, that is the y-intercept. When x is 0, that's telling you the y-intercept is 2, so you could write it like that in slope-intercept. Or you could do it in point slope. Y minus 2 equals the slope 1, x minus 0. Or you could use the other point. Y minus 0 equals the slope of 1, x minus -2, x plus 2. Same thing we did right above. Either of these are correct in point slope, and this is fine in slope-intercept. So any 3 of these in red would be marked correct. They're all good. Let's do a couple more. First, find the slope. -4 minus -3 over -4 minus -3 over 4 minus -5. So that's the same as adding -4 plus 3 is -1, and 4 plus 5 is 9, so the slope is -1/9. Now, I'm not given the y-intercept in this problem. X isn't 0, so neither of these are the y-intercept, which means I'm probably just going to stick with point slope because I don't want to figure out the y-intercept. I'll just use point slope. Y minus the y-coordinate would be -3, so y plus 3 equals -1/9. X minus -5 is x plus 5. That's if I use the first point. I can do the same thing over here. Y minus -4, y plus 4 equals, the slope is the same, x minus 4. There you go. Either of these are the same equation, or the same line. They're just different versions of the line because they're both points on the line. You can start anywhere. In point slope, you can start wherever you want. So I could do this all day. I could find more points and keep writing equations. Last two, find the slope. -3 minus 2, -3 minus 2. 1 minus -2 is 1 plus 2. That's -5/3. There's your slope. Again, I'm not given the y-intercept because I don't know when x is 0. So if you want to solve it, you can, but I'm just going to use point slope. Y minus a y-coordinate is 2 equals m -5/3. X minus -2 is x plus 2. That's one of them. Or y minus -3 equals -5/3. X minus 1. Either of those are fine. Last one. -5 minus -1. -5 minus -1 is the same as adding. And 0 minus -3 is the same as adding. -5 plus 1 is -4. And 0 plus 3 is 3. So there's your slope. Now we'll do slope-intercept. Wait a minute. I am given the y-intercept in this one. So I can do slope-intercept. Y equals -4/3 x. The y-intercept is -5. That's in slope-intercept. But you could still do point slope. Y minus -1, y plus, whoops, what happened there? Y plus 1 equals, the slope is -4/3. X minus -3 is x plus 3. And then I can do it with the other point if I wanted to. Y plus 5 equals -4/3 x minus 0. And you can simplify that, but you don't have to. That's, since I'm given the y-intercept in these two, and I know that because x is 0, I can write those two in slope-intercept. The other ones I did in point slope. So it doesn't matter which one you pick, but you need to be quite proficient in both slope-intercept and also point slope. Good luck on your quiz tomorrow.